Okay, so let's unpack this. You've shared a whole stack of material with us, and it's all centered around one specific event, right?
That's right. It's a Christian marriage retreat happening in Chicago next summer, July 25th and 26th, 2025. It's called To Love and to Heal.
To love and to heal. Okay.
And, well, based on everything here, it's positioned as this like ultimate 2-day experience for Christian couples who are really seeking more.
More.
Yeah, more connection, maybe more healing, just more of what they believe God intended for their marriage. They talk about desiring more of what is possible.
Got it. So for this deep dive, looking at all this material you sent over, our mission isn't really just to describe the event itself, is it?
No, not
It
exactly.
feels like we should be going through these sources and trying to, like, pull out the core insights,
Mm,
maybe the aha moments, the
mm,
practical wisdom that could actually be useful for any couple listening,
mhm.
whether they plan to attend this specific retreat or not.
Exactly. And what jumps out right away, I think, from the material is this underlying theme, this sort of widespread longing couples seem to have
A longing for.
for better communication, maybe, or just a deeper connection, or maybe healing from past stuff. The sources frame this retreat specifically as a transformational gathering
Hmm.
and even a safe oasis
Yeah.
right in the heart of Chicago, interestingly enough.
A safe oasis, yeah.
Yeah.
That phrase, that imagery really stands out, especially,
Yeah.
considering how hectic life gets.
Right.
So let's dig into these sources then. Why do they suggest a couple might actually seek out something like this retreat? What's the core need they're trying to meet?
Well, it comes back to that word more. The material talks about couples who genuinely want to experience a richer, maybe bolder kind of love. Not just for themselves right now, but like for the legacy they're building together. It seems to be about recognizing there's potential there in their marriage that they haven't quite reached yet.
And the sources, they seem to suggest some specific ways that attending could help unlock that potential, right? They mention things like getting inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration first, kind of reigniting that belief that, it is possible to have a really thriving marriage.
But it's not just inspiration, is it? There seems to be a pretty strong emphasis on learning actual skills.
Oh, absolutely. That's a key insight the material really hammers home. This idea that simply knowing you should communicate better or be more patient or whatever
Mhm.
isn't actually enough.
Right.
The sources have this really powerful line, something like, knowing is not enough. Knowing how W is a game changer.
Knowing how W. And they connect that to a pretty universal human struggle, don't they? They bring up Romans 7.15.
They do, yeah. That whole thing about, wanting to do what's right, but somehow doing the opposite.
Exactly. That feeling of, I know what I should do, but.
Right. And the material links that directly to marriage. It says something like, when you are in the heat of those moments, all the wonderful and godly things you know often go out the window.
Which is so relatable, unfortunately.
Totally. So this points to that core challenge, doesn't it? How do you bridge that gap between what you intend and what you actually do, especially when things get tense or difficult?
Okay, so how do the sources say this retreat addresses that?
Well, they present the retreat as kind of stepping in to the rescue, so to speak, offering a space and, importantly, the tools to help couples figure out the how.
How?
Yeah, how to navigate conflict more constructively, maybe find connection even when you disagree, and basically align your actions with what you truly want for the marriage. They mention using this blend of spiritual, therapeutic, and practical tools.
That blend sounds really interesting. Spiritual, therapeutic, and practical. Okay, so beyond the learning, the tools,
Yeah.
what else does the material suggest a couple might get out of this?
Community, that's highlighted quite a bit.
Oh,
The idea that, no one is an island and the power of connecting with a circle of support. The sources specifically mention joining like-minded couples and relationship experts. It suggests that sharing the experience and seeing other people actively working on their relationships too can be incredibly, powerful, encouraging.
yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Just knowing you're not the only ones facing challenges can be huge. Okay,
Yeah.
and the final experience mentioned in the sources ties back to that idea of doing something, right? Intentional action.
Yes, exactly. The sources frame the very act of going on a retreat as intentional.
Like the decision itself is step one.
Right. Stepping away from the daily grind, maybe the arguments, the hurt, just to sort of regain capacity and get focused again. It's presented as a really deliberate investment in the relationship.
So it sounds like the material really emphasizes that marriage growth isn't passive. It takes deliberate effort. Or as the sources put it, faith with works is life.
Precisely.
They also give us a little sneak peek at some specific topics they might cover. What kind of content are they teasing?
Well, one specific topic they mentioned is how to deepen your bond and cultivate emotional intimacy even in the midst of conflict.
Okay, wow. That really gets to the heart of it for so many couples, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do you stay close or, feel understood when you're actually disagreeing or working through something tough?
Exactly. It's not just about stopping the fight, but maintaining that connection through it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other specific topic that called out was marriage and menopause, how to effectively navigate each stage of marriage while maintaining intimate connection.
Oh, interesting. So acknowledging the life stages too.
Right. It points to the reality that relationships aren't static. They evolve, they face specific biological changes, life stage challenges, and those things need, well, conscious navigation. It's not a one-size-fits-all journey.
Definitely not. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about the people involved? The sources mention several facilitators and experts. Their backgrounds seem to line up with that blend of approaches you talked about earlier: spiritual, therapeutic, practical.
They really do. So first, the sources describe Dimitri and Andrea. They're presented as embodying bold love in action and intentional. Dimitri's described as a coach, focusing on supporting men, founded something called Mountain of Inspiration. And Andrea, she's described as an accomplished psychotherapist and relationship expert, founder of Legacy Moments Academy.
And the material highlights her specific approach, a signature therapeutic framework. It says it bridges things like faith, culture, trauma, and relationship cycles.
Yeah, that suggests a really deep look at how our past, our background, all of that influences how we actually show up in our marriage,
Mhm.
right? And she's apparently worked with couples for over 2 decades, so there's real clinical depth there.
Okay, who else?
Then there are Charles and Mary Horton. The sources describe them as practical, engaging, and fun. They founded Mission Possible Marriage Ministry.
Practical, engaging, and fun. I like that combo. And they have a quote in the material that really jumped out at me. Marriage takes work. There's more to it than being in love.
Yes. That kind of sums up that need for tools and being intentional, doesn't it?
It really does. The sources also mentioned they're certified in Symbiose assessments.
Right, yeah. That's often used for premarital counseling and marriage guidance. Helps couples understand personality styles, dynamics.
And also the Marriage on the Rock curriculum. That's a pretty well-known program, isn't it? Focused on foundational biblical principles for marriage.
That's right. And then we also see Dion Campbell mentioned. He's noted as a powerful apostolic voice and an award-winning leader.
And his background seems unique, too. The sources highlight this blend of leading a church and serving as the chief of police.
Yeah, that bivocational thing. It suggests a perspective that integrates, spiritual guidance with very real-world, community-level challenges.
And he and his wife, LaRonda, they're also certified instructors in that same Marriage on the Rock curriculum, which shows that commitment to teaching those principles. The sources also mention Dion's passion for manhood development.
Which suggests maybe an understanding of specific challenges men might face in relationships and life.
Okay. Then there's Dr. Kenneth Taylor.
Yes. The sources present him as having, wow, over 40 years in therapeutic intervention. His background seems to bridge academic psychology, mentioning places like Notre Dame and Memphis, and even insights from, sports analysis.
Sports analysis. Interesting angle.
Yeah, it suggests maybe someone who can look at human dynamics from a lot of different angles, applying therapeutic ideas with a pretty broad perspective.
Wait, who else is on the list?
Lawrence and Jalissa Reynolds. The sources call him a passionate duo dedicated to helping couples deepen their connection through vulnerability.
Vulnerability, key word there.
Definitely. Jalissa is a licensed therapist, expertise in emotional intimacy communication, and Lawrence is described as a celebrity chef and relationship expert, bringing real-life insight.
A celebrity chef. Okay, that's another interesting blend.
Right. It kind of highlights how maybe professional therapeutic knowledge, like Jalissa brings, can mix with practical, relatable experience. Maybe showing how intentional connection can even happen in everyday things, like cooking together, while she brings the clinical understanding of why vulnerability is so crucial.
I can see that. And
Finally, Michelle Fraser is mentioned. Her focus, according to the sources, is on restoring the sanctity of marriage by empowering family unit healing through marriage and family counseling.
restoring sanctity, empowering family unit healing.
Okay. Yeah, she's an associate pastor, background in psychology, so emphasizing a faith-based approach to counseling and healing within the whole family system.
Wow. So looking at all these individuals the sources lay out, you've got licensed therapists, clinical experts who are bridging faith and trauma, then coaches focusing on practical action steps. Ministry leaders grounded in specific biblical teaching. People with deep real-world community experience.
Yeah, it really shows how they embody that blend they promise, doesn't it? It's not just one perspective or one school of thought. It seems like a deliberate, multifaceted approach trying to meet couples wherever they are with a diverse set of
It
tools.
really seems like the sources are pushing this idea that maybe no single viewpoint has all the answers for marriage.
Exactly.
And that drawing from, spiritual wisdom and therapeutic understanding and just practical skills, all of that is pretty essential for building a strong, resilient marriage, especially today.
Absolutely. It really underscores that that journey towards more in marriage probably requires different kinds of support, different kinds of knowledge along the way.
So wrapping this up,
Yeah.
what does this all mean? After digging through all this material you shared about the To Love and to Heal retreat, this central theme really pops out, doesn't it?
Yeah, this idea of the possibility of achieving more in marriage.
Right. More love, more connection, more healing, more success, whatever more means to a couple. And the key seems to be intentional effort.
Definitely. And drawing on both faith and those practical tools we talked about.
The sources are pretty clear that building a strong marriage isn't just, coasting on being in love.
No, it demands work. It demands learning the how, like we discussed, and actually using resources, using community support. And the variety of experts mentioned in the sources really reflects that multi-pronged approach.
And that very idea of an intentional retreat, like physically stepping away from the everyday noise to refuel and refocus, that's presented as a really vital strategy in the whole process.
Yeah, the material definitely paints a picture of this focused, maybe intense 2-day experience designed to give couples breakthroughs, maybe a roadmap forward.
Which, brings up an important question, I think.
Mm-hmm.
While a retreat offers this intense period of learning and connection, marriage itself, well, it's lived out day by day, right? Often in the middle of life's messiness, uncertainties, conflicts, things the sources acknowledge.
Right, the daily grind.
Yeah. So given how much the material emphasizes intentional action and applying what you learn, even in the heat of those moments, referencing that Romans 7.15 idea again,
Yeah.
how do you think the insights, the intentionality that someone might build up during a concentrated experience like this, how does that actually translate into the ongoing everyday reality of marriage?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. How does a couple keep that sense of bold love in action and intentional, as the sources put it, going long after the retreat weekend is over and they're back in their normal lives?
How do you sustain it?
Exactly. That's definitely something for you, the listener, to think about as you reflect on everything we've sort of unpacked today.